And welcome to America's Voice Live. It is Thursday, July 8th, 2021. I'm Steve Gerber. Tudor Dixon has the day off, but we have an awful lot to get through, so let's get started with some of the day's top stories. In Surfside, Florida, it has been more than 2 weeks now since the collapse of that condominium, and even though no one wants to give up, no survivors are expected. Here in the United States, there are more jobs than ever, but hiring people is proving nearly impossible for many companies. We'll tell you why. And Japan has declared a state of emergency on the eve of the Summer Olympics, meaning the stadiums will be empty of any fans. We'll get to all of that, but we begin with Tropical Storm Elsa that is wreaking havoc along the eastern seaboard and up the East Coast. At least one person is dead, a dozen more have been injured. Earlier today, Elsa made its way across Georgia and into South Carolina, leaving tens of thousands of homes and businesses in the dark without power. In Florida, a tree fell on top of two cars, one person killed there. In Georgia, a possible tornado struck Kings Bay Naval Sub Base, injuring 10 more. To get the latest on the storm, we're going out to Weather Nation correspondent John Van Pelt, who has an update on Elsa. John, what can you tell us?
Yes, Steve, just now we're having one of those showers we've had on and off through the morning and early afternoon here on the Outer Banks. Here in Kitty Hawk, you can see the skies are angry as Elsa gets closer and closer, and we've got several threats we need to worry about. We've got a tornado watch up until 3 o'clock, so there's the possibility we could get some spin-ups through the afternoon here, so people need to be aware of that. Then in the ocean, it gets rougher and rougher by the hour. We've got to watch out for severe rip currents along this part of the Outer Banks, and also heavier rains could put parts of Highway 12, which is the highway to my left here, underwater if we get some really heavy rains later on. So hydroplaning could be a problem. And then on the southern Outer Banks, the S-curves near Rodanthe could go underwater if we get a lot of heavy rain also, and also blown sand across the highway could be a problem. So Elsa will finally get out of here later on, but for now, several concerns here on the Outer Banks.
John, thank you so much. We'll keep an eye on that storm for you as well. It has been 2 weeks now since the horrifying condo collapse in Surfside, Florida that left dozens dead and scores missing. But now the hope of finding any more survivors has ended for all practical purposes. The latest numbers show at least 54 people have been confirmed killed, 86 more still unaccounted for. Now on Wednesday, the chief of operations for the Miami-Dade Fire and Rescue Department said they'll no longer use rescue dogs and listening devices at the collapse site. Miami-Dade County Mayor Danielle Levine-Cava spoke about the decision as well.
It is with deep, profound sadness that this afternoon I'm able to share that we made the extremely difficult decision to transition from Operation Search and Rescue to Recovery. At this point, we have truly exhausted every option available to us in the search and rescue mission.
Now, in the wake of this building's collapse, state lawmakers, structural engineers, and insurance agents have all suggested updating laws that would require older buildings along the shore for sure to be recertified by the state. Governor Ron DeSantis won't commit to any actions on the state level, at least not yet, to address these concerns about older buildings. Here's part of what the governor had to say.
We obviously want to be able to identify why did this happen. Is this something that was unique to this building? Is it something that was unique to the person that maybe developed it? Because obviously there are sister properties. Is it something that buildings of that age that would have implications beyond that, whether Southern Florida or the entire state of Florida? I think we need to get those definitive answers. I can just say, just having talked with people who've been on the scene, people who've done stuff, I think that I don't think that I think this building had problems from the start. Let's just put it that way. And so, so we'll see. I mean, we need to do that.
Several coastal cities, including those in Miami-Dade County, have launched their own review of buildings they think could be at risk. Turning now to the jobs market, if you're looking for a new job, this may be the best time ever to be on the hunt because job openings are at an all-time high here in America. Open positions stayed at a record high for May at 9.2 million jobs. Think about that. May openings changed very little from April's record peak. In June, the United States added 850,000 jobs. That's up from May's 583,000 and April's disappointing 278,000. But businesses still struggling to get enough bodies to keep up with demands. Restaurants, bars, hotels, well, they created 89,000 jobs in May, hiring 340,000 in June. But hospitality and retail are still seeing a rise in people that are quitting their jobs. So I guess the opportunities are still there in big numbers. If you're looking for a change, today might be the day. In Michigan, state auditors are now reviewing the accuracy of nursing home deaths due to the COVID pandemic. Now, this comes after suspicions from Republicans and some Democrats, too, that the number of nursing home and long-term care facility deaths are actually much higher than reported by Governor Gretchen Whitmer and her administration. 29% of all the confirmed COVID deaths in the state come from nursing homes, so they claim, but that would be dramatically lower than every other state in the region, like Minnesota, that reported 80% of its deaths were from long-term care facilities. I want to bring in Real America's Voice correspondent and contributor Dr. Tom Borelli to sort this out a little bit more. Tom, good to see you today.
Hey, Steve, great to be back.
Now, here's the problem we face, in large part. It's the discrepancies from state to state on how COVID deaths are reported. For example, in Michigan, if you have 12 or fewer residents in a long-term care facility for the elderly, you don't have to report anything. And obviously, nobody believes it was only 29% of the people in long-term care facilities. I think Governor Gretchen Whitmer is going to pay a price for this, much like Governor Cuomo in New York. Your thoughts?
Well, Steve, there certainly is a really good comparison between Governor Cuomo in New York and Governor Whitmer in Michigan, because they both made the same tragic decision to send patients who were recovering from COVID from hospitals and put them into nursing homes. And we know in New York there was a big undercount, about 50% of those who died in elderly care facilities and nursing homes was undercut by 50% because Cuomo was writing a book. And his state people were trying to keep that information low so that he could get his book deal. That's what the New York Times reported. I'm not just saying that. There was a nice correlation there. So Whitmer seems, I don't think she has a book, but she did actually follow Cuomo's lead. So we don't have follow the leader here. We have follow the loser. She followed Cuomo when he made that decision, and she also put nursing home patients that were positive with COVID into those facilities. So clearly there's a correlation. Clearly that was a bad idea. No one was at home doing basic epidemiology or microbiology 101. What you do is you try to isolate people who are infected, who may be carrying it from other people. And we knew the elderly were the most vulnerable. So if you, in a twisted way, if you wanted to get rid of the elderly, that's the kind of policy you would have. You'd put COVID policy positive people into nursing homes where the people were most vulnerable, especially those, over age 75 or so.
And now as this investigation begins in Michigan, of course, we'll keep an eye on it and keep you in the conversation as well. Dr. Tom Borelli, always appreciate you being here, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
And the Olympic Games might feel a little lonely this year because of COVID. No people in the stands. That's right, nobody. That's because Tokyo is experiencing a rise in cases and has declared a state of emergency, which will go into effect July 12th, 4 days hence, and remain in place until at least August the 22nd. Japan has announced there will be no spectators allowed at all in order to help stem the spread of COVID. Restaurants and bars will also have to close by 11 o'clock at night and will not be allowed to serve any alcohol, making for a very different Olympic Games. Some might just say a bit boring. Coming up after the break, spokeswoman for former President Donald Trump, Liz Harrington, will be joining me to talk about Trump's lawsuits against the social media giants, Facebook, Google, and Twitter. Don't miss it. It's straight ahead on America's Voice Live. Well, thank you for spending time here on a Thursday with America's Voice Live. We certainly appreciate it. Amazon and Microsoft have battled over the Department of Defense's cloud contract, but now it all ended with kind of a whimper, with the Department of Defense calling off the $10 billion deal altogether because the Joint Enterprise Defense Infrastructure, or JEDI, quote, no longer meets the department's needs. But the fight might not be over completely. In a press release, the Pentagon said it still needs an enterprise-scale cloud capability, announcing a new contract called the Joint Warfighter Cloud Capability. Amazon and Microsoft will both be solicited for the proposals on this new contract, so ring the bell. We're going the distance in this heavyweight battle of big tech. You may have heard blood supplies are down around the nation, causing many elective surgeries to be postponed. Many blood clot centers across the country are down to a one-day supply, with doctors saying the lack of blood can mean life or death in a trauma situation. The reason so many hospitals are lacking blood is because of the pandemic, of course. Before COVID-19, 25% of blood donations came from schools, but with most of them closed for so long, well, the blood supply just dried up. So if you can, go donate. Maybe you can save a life today. Think about that. And here's a story that's, well, frightening to say the least. The hunt is on today for a killer grizzly bear in Montana. On Tuesday, a California woman who was on a long-distance bike trip pulled from her tent and killed by the bear. Fellow campers in a nearby tent chased the bear off using bear spray, but it was too late. The woman was killed. The bear had been spotted in the area earlier in the morning and was chased away by campers, who then removed food from their tents and went to bed. The bear will be put down once it's been found, and the sad thing is, nobody wins in this case. The woman is dead, the bear will be too, and it's likely that if the campers had followed the rules of food management in bear country, it could have all been avoided. Keep that in mind. And the brown-tailed moth caterpillar, small, furry, may even appear to be a bit harmless, enough to make a guy say, hey, I want to reach out and pet that thing. Don't do it. Don't do it. You might well regret it. These caterpillars are dangerous. Their hairs are barbed and hollow, filled with toxin, which can leave a person itching for days with poison ivy-like rashes. They can also cause wheezing if inhaled, and in some cases cause blindness if one of those hairs gets into your eye. Now, these caterpillars are now being found in every one of Maine's 16 counties, so bad, in fact, some communities have declared a state of emergency. So be on the lookout for these dangerous little fuzzballs if you're in the area. And don't dismiss these man-eating little monsters. Trust me on this. I've been in the ER twice the past couple of years after coming in contact with a different caterpillar, a hickory tussock moth caterpillar. And I can tell you this, from personal experience, it is a game you do not want to play. They will mess you up. You've been warned. Don't say I didn't tell you so. All right, coming up after the break, the economy is recovering, well, at least in certain states. Our America's Voice panel will be discussing the differences between red and blue states straight ahead on AVL.
Hello, I'm Jessica Rivera with your latest news break. In Wisconsin, 30-year-old Christopher Anderson is wanted on first-degree intentional homicide in the murder of his ex-girlfriend, 26-year-old Hannah Miller. Anderson's SUV was found abandoned outside Minneapolis, and his alleged accomplice has been arrested. In New Jersey, a crowd of about 100 people showed up at 45-year-old Edward Matthews' home Monday to protest after Matthews was caught on video yelling racial slurs at a neighbor. And in Nashville, Tennessee, over the holiday weekend, a shocking dash cam video shows a person throwing a lit firework into a stopped car at a driver at an intersection. As the driver tossed the firework out, he did end up getting burned. And that's your latest news break. Now back to America's Voice Live.
Thank you, Jessica. Well, it was a bloody and deadly Independence Day weekend. As we mentioned just a few moments ago, at least 150 people killed in over 500 shootings across the country. In New York alone, shootings have spiked almost 40% from this time last year.
That's right, and it's causing some New Yorkers to rethink bail reform policies that allow prisoners back on the street who can't afford release while they wait on trial. Joining our panel today to discuss is the former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Human Rights Commission and former mayor of Cincinnati, Ohio, Ken Blackwell, Real America's Voice contributor Dr. Tom Borelli, and Republican strategist and former Indiana GOP financier Rory McShane. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Mr. Mayor, I'll start with you. You ran a big city. Cincinnati's a big city in America. We didn't have these problems when you were mayor. It just seems that over the last several years, places like Chicago, New York, it has just spiraled out of control, sir. And there's got to be better answers than what we're seeing of defund the police and treat the police terribly and so on and so forth. If you were in charge of Cincinnati today, what would be the answer?
As was the case in the late 70s, early 80s when I was mayor, I basically said to the citizens of Cincinnati, we have a choice.
You know, you have to have a point in the day every day where you can take a deep breath, disconnect from all the things that are going out there, because it'll weigh you down. You'll start to feel a little bit negative about it. We don't want that. We don't want that. We want you to be happy about where you are, what's going on. And I want you to think about what a great country you live in, what makes this country wonderful, which is a pile of things. A lot of it comes from the people. That's why I like my neighbors. I have faith in the people in this country. I believe in you, is what I'm saying. Good Samaritans in Georgia didn't hesitate to jump into action when they noticed something wrong with a man driving a truck. Other drivers on an interstate in Atlanta noticed a slow-driving truck, realizing that the man driving was slumped over. Quickly pulling over to help, the truck eventually stopped, and that's when the Good Samaritans began smashing the windows to help the man, as you can see in the video. Eventually, one woman was able to smash the back window, pulling the man out, calling his wife, and getting him to the hospital. His wife says he is doing better and recovering. No word on why he got sick like that, but man, they got in, didn't they? Dogs are wonderful, aren't they? I have like a herd of them, so I like dogs. It's all good. This wonderful dog in Florida saved her owner's life with her persistent barking. Yeah, persistent barking. Sometimes I like that, and then there's, well, the rest of the time. But in this case, it worked out. Joel Rosa woke up at 3 in the morning to his dog Maggie barking nonstop. After waking up, Rosa heard a noise. Going outside an upstairs porch to investigate, he saw flames coming from the right side of his home. In the beginning, Rosa thought he could put the fire out from outside, but ended up just getting out of the house. By the time the fire and rescue crews arrived, the fire had consumed 80% of the house. But fire rescue says the man should definitely thank his dog for saving his life. Nice work there, dog. Yeah, she can get some extra treats. Something that is wonderful is a single act of kindness. It really is true. You can change somebody's entire day, maybe more. In Boston, Maine, a grocery worker didn't think twice when a veteran couldn't pay for his groceries. Brian Poyer just pulled out his wallet and said, I got this. Apparently, it's not the first time Poyer has done this either, because when emergency room nurse Renee Falcone saw this wonderful act of kindness, she shared the story on social media, describing how the veteran's eyes light up, smiling from ear to ear. Others chiming in, saying they were not surprised by the generosity, that he actually does this quite often. And as for Breyer, well, he says he just wanted to say thank you to the man for his service to this country, and that he just loves music, knowledge, video gaming, and compassion. So there you go. Here's another one for you. Strangers in York, Maine, gave a single mom and her daughter a dream vacation, which all started with a Facebook post. Check this out. Liz St. Martin was asking for recommendations on where she could park overnight in Maine. She wanted to take her daughter on a trip for her birthday, but couldn't find a hotel or even afford one. Now, Liz wasn't looking for any money or a handout, but people in the town of York decided to help her anyway by offering to give the mom and daughter a 2-night stay in a hotel in Anchorage, which Liz didn't want to accept at first, but eventually decided, yeah, what the hell. The generosity didn't end there. Not when the mom and daughter arrived. That's when they were given tickets to the York Wild Kingdom, presents for her daughter, and gift cards to different restaurants in the area, making for a lovely, special, and, well, unforgettable trip. You live around a lot of really cool people. Don't ever forget that. Coming up next on America's Voice Live, child psychologist Dr. Katie Coleman will be joining the show to talk about how the CDC's new mask mandates for children will be affecting kids during this upcoming school year. Don't go anywhere. This is America's Voice Live.